It is completely hilarious to me to watch the very same people who express the most hatred towards Afrikaners and minorities in this country now lose their minds and suddenly talk about this refugee program that has seen 49 Afrikaans individuals leaving these shores for America as refugees. Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Welcome to the Big Daddy Liberty Show's Vlogs edition. My name, of course, is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Now, you're watching this on YouTube, you know the rules. Hit that like button, smash that like button, and subscribe to the channel. And do me a solid favor by sharing this video on all your social media streams. Now, enough with the jibber jabber. How about we get straight into this issue of the 49 Afrikaners, the first group who are now refugees in Trump's America. Now, again, for me, this video isn't necessarily going to be unpacking the exact nature of the refugee program, what it's about, or blah, blah, blah. You can watch other content for that. I want to talk about the reaction that we've seen, particularly on social media, and the hysteria that we've seen in the media, and almost, how dare these Afrikaners leave? Don't they know they're supposed to stay here and be persecuted by us who hate them because they're Afrikaans? That's exactly the response we've seen from some segments of our politics and politicians, especially the race-obsessed ones who insist on racializing South Africa via our laws and policies. And of course, from the media, the mainstream media, who shill for these racist ideas, who shill for these racist politicians who are now also, we're playing the game of apportioning blame, not on the individuals who are causing some South Africans to feel that they should leave the country in order to avoid the racial discrimination. No, that's not who they're focusing on. They're focusing on the actual South Africans who've decided to leave and are effectively expressing ill will towards those 49 individuals who are now, at the time of recording this, safely ensconced in America. Indeed, as they're arriving, waving American flags and welcomed by the Trump administration, as was the case here.
Welcome to the United States of America. Thank you, sir. Thank you. It is such an honor for us to receive you here today. This is the land of the free, and we know that all of you have faced... I'm Chris Landau. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm the Deputy Secretary of State of the United States. This is my friend Troy Edgar.
Yeah, I'm the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, and again, welcome. So great to have you guys here.
Now, again, I'm not going to get into the merits of this refugee program necessarily. For me, it's the response. It is the response by some South Africans, especially those on social media, our politics and in the media, who almost are justifying, ironically, why these 49 individuals felt that they have to leave the country. What am I talking about? Well, firstly, let's talk about the denial. The denial and the lies that we've seen being perpetuated by the very same politicians who in this country use race to pick winners and losers. I will zoom in this instance on the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, who again was part of the chorus of political elites who are responding to this and doing so in a fundamentally dishonest way. Here's Ronald Lamola speaking to the media saying, oh, there's no evidence, he suggests, of any racial discrimination in this country. I've got a feeling we're going to see something ironic here, but let's roll the clip.
But there's no data at all that backs that there's persecution of white South Africans or white Afrikaners, to be more particular, who are farmers.
That's Ronald Lamola, of course, speaking rather emphatically, saying there's no evidence for any persecution or racial discrimination against minorities or Afrikaners in this country. But here's the problem. The very same individual, Ronald Lamola, when he was leader of the ANC Youth League, said this as a veiled threat to white farmers in this country.
We are just giving a warning to white South Africans that they must voluntarily bring back the land and voluntarily bring back the mineral resources. There will be a moment where these service delivery protests are going to go to invade the land of Mr. Van Tonder or Mr. Van der Merwe. And we can no longer be able to guarantee the continued safety of Mr. van der Merwe.
Yes, exactly. This is the goldfish memory that these race-obsessed politicians who racialize South Africa through laws and policies seem to think we have as the public. That somehow we've forgotten that these are the same individuals who have made it their mission to go after racial minorities and minority groupings in this country. We don't forget, Mr. Lamola, we don't forget the ANC or woke leftists in this country. And indeed, this targeting of this grouping, a hostility, if you will, towards them extends even to how government has responded in this instance to these 49 individuals. I'm going to go to an article that was in EWN with government responding on this issue, saying the following. Now, it says Afrikaners relocating to the US could lose their refugee status should they decide to return to South Africans. The Department of International Relations said a group of 49 white Afrikaners en route to America under a controversial resettlement program could jeopardize their refugee protections if they try to come back. Again, the veiled thread reading as follows, but the legal implications back home are significant, it says. Diplomatic protections fall away, and while Section 20 of the Constitution guarantees that, quote, no citizen may be deprived of citizenship, close quote, returning under false claims could lead to court challenges over fraud or misrepresentation, end of quote. Now, here's the issue. Why was there a need by the department to make this particular statement when implicitly in it is a suggestion that these individuals would so-called come back under false claims? I mean, it's the whole language of how government has responded to this, the whole language of how politicians and the media have responded to this has basically been to apportion ill will or ill intent or indeed some sort of collective guilt on these individuals who have applied for this refugee program. There's been zero introspection by these individuals as to maybe how they are contributing to an environment in this country where certain minorities feel that they are discriminated against, and not only just feel that way, it's indeed codified in our laws and policy in this country. Now, it isn't just the lower end politicians who are making these comments and are trying to deny that there actually is racial discrimination against minorities in this country. And again, the denial, it's delicious irony. Now, again, this denial by the politicians is made even more infuriating when you consider just a couple of weeks ago, a party like the DA had to go to court, and has gone to court rather, against the Employment Equity Amendment Act, a piece of legislation amending an existing law that does exactly that, creates hierarchies of race in this country and picks winners and losers using race. This particular Amendment Act even going as far as creating hard line race quotas that limit opportunity for minorities in this country, and ironically, white Afrikaners would be at the forefront of who would feel attacked by legislation like that. Just a couple of weeks ago, that's what we were talking about in this country. To then have these politicians deny that there is racial discrimination in this country, which may see some people want to leave the country, is actually quite insulting to our intelligence. And it begs the question, why are we as a society not focusing on removing racialism, removing these racist laws, and creating a society that actually grows opportunity and includes all South Africans in that? Why are we choosing the opposite direction to that, of using race and race-based laws and policies to pick winners and losers in society, when we could be focusing on creating a non-racial and inclusive society? That's the question I want to pose, because at the heart of the whole debate happening right now, at the heart of the whole discussion right now, will be a focus on certain statements that then create the us and them dynamic on social media as people debate this nonsense, and the broader point of why we're not creating a non-racial society is lost by everybody. What do I mean by that? Well, you're going to see on social media now a focus by the media and the politicians who feel the guilt, by the way, who feel the guilt of what they're seeing here as being their fault, but will pretend as if it's not their fault by saying, oh, this whole refugee program, they'll say, is based on a lie. So that issue becomes lost in this entire dynamic of how about we build a South Africa that is non-racial, a South Africa that is based on ideas of putting families first, a South Africa that is based on the idea of freedom for individuals, not looking at people as a racial grouping or a gender, whatever the case may be, a South Africa that has a growing economy, an economy that grows so rapidly that it absorbs, it includes all South Africans in it. And we would not have these situation of South Africans who are feeling that they've been placed at the bottom of the barrel due to an insistence on using race, as was the case in colonial days, as was the case in apartheid days, and as is the case today by the ANC types and indeed the race-obsessed left in this country. This is the sort of thing that I want us to think about. Why are we choosing to continue with the racialism and racist policies instead of building a non-racial, free, prosperous, and indeed property-earning South Africa? That is the question I think we should be answering in this country, especially as we watch the outcomes now as being fellow South Africans choosing to leave this mess as opposed to address it collectively as we should. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. Let me know in the comments what you think about this issue. But as always, as this refugee program unfurls further and we'll see more South Africans probably take up these opportunities. And by the way, it's not just Afrikaners and white Afrikaners. This program, this refugee program by the Trump administration is actually quite broad in its outlook. It can include colored individuals, Indian individuals, racial minorities in this country, and even some black individuals who feel persecuted for religious or political beliefs. That's how broad it actually really is. And it's a real risk to us as South Africans. And it's something that we need to actually nip in the bud as South Africans and address the issues that we face in a way in which we create the sort of society we want to be. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Maybe let me know what you think in the comment section. And as always, we'll be watching. Thanks for watching this episode of the Vlogs edition. Again, as I said, let me know in the comments what you think about this. And a reminder to you, as you're watching this on YouTube, to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and of course, share this content. I'll see you on the next one.